Today, we're talking about the hidden connections that link our world together. Things like water, energy, food, and the environment. We're going to look at a really smart new way to measure these connections and see how it can help us stop making big, accidental mistakes. So let me start with a question for you. How could a project that's designed to save a ton of water actually somehow create a whole new energy problem? I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Well, that exact puzzle is what we are digging into today. And to get to the bottom of it, we have to start with this one big idea. We live in a tightly coupled world. None of our big systems, water, energy, you name it, operate in a vacuum. They are all linked together. There's actually a name for this, the Wi-Fi Nexus. That stands for water, energy, food, and ecosystems. The whole idea is pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You can't just do something in one area without creating ripples, both good and bad, in all the others. You see, for years, we've been stuck in what's called siloed thinking. We try to solve a water problem over here and an energy problem way over there, like they're totally separate issues. And that's how we get these unintended consequences. Nexus thinking flips that on its head. It forces you to ask those connecting questions like, okay, but how is this new water plan going to affect our power grid? It's about seeing the whole picture. And here's the core of the issue the researchers found. Even when we've tried to measure these connections, the tools we've been using give us a really blurry picture. As they say right here, the old methods just mash everything together into one number. That hides whether a good thing in one area is causing a total disaster somewhere else. It obscures what they call directional influence, basically who is affecting whom. So what's the fix? How do we take all these invisible connections and, make them visible? This is where this new research really shines, by giving us a much sharper set of tools. So the solution they came up with is actually pretty brilliant. They created two completely separate tools. First, you've got the Nexus Synergy Index, or NSI. That just measures the good stuff, the win-wins. Then, you've got the Nexus Conflict Index, the NCI, which only looks at the bad stuff, the hidden problems. And here's the secret sauce. They are never, ever mixed together. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This slide shows you the secret to how it all works. Instead of looking at the whole system as just one big jumble, they break it down into these 12 very specific one-way relationships. They ask questions like, how does this action in the water sector specifically impact the energy sector? Or how does this change in food production specifically impact ecosystems? This is that pairwise assessment they talk about, and it's what gives these tools their power. It's no longer just a vague, water and energy are related. It's water is impacting energy in this exact way. So let's pop the hood and see how they actually come up with these scores for the good stuff and the bad stuff. Okay, so it all breaks down into 4 main steps. First, you take each of those 12 one-way streets we just looked at. Then, for each one, you grade the impact using 3 different lenses. After that, you tweak the score a bit based on, how solid your evidence is and how big the impact really is. And the final most important step, you add up all the positive scores to get your synergy score and all the negative scores to get your conflict score. Remember, you never let them touch. And these 3 lenses are just crucial. Think of efficiency as your bang for the buck lens. Are you getting more crops for every drop of water? Reliability is the can you count on it lens. Will the lights stay on? Will the water keep flowing? And safeguards, that's the do no harm lens. It looks at the impact on the environment and on people's lives. All right, I know this might all sound a little bit abstract, so let's make it real. Let's look at an actual case study from the paper, a project in Lebanon, and see how this all plays out. So the project was this. Take farms that were using these old, wasteful flood irrigation techniques and upgrade them to super efficient modern drip systems. I mean, on the surface, this sounds like an absolute no-brainer. A clear win for everybody, right? And sure enough, the Nexus Synergy Index loves this project. It gets a really strong positive score of plus 0.43, and that's all coming from that water-to-food relationship. The new system is just incredibly efficient, growing way more food with way less water. It's a huge win. But here's the catch. Remember that puzzle we started with? The Nexus Conflict Index finds the hidden problem, giving it a score of negative 0.28. See, the old flood irrigation, that just uses gravity. But these new high-tech drip systems need pressurized pumps, and those pumps use a lot of electricity. So that water-to-energy connection, it's a negative. Saving water is costing a lot of energy. And that is the whole point. An older tool might have just added those numbers together and given you a score of, say, plus 0.15. You'd look at that and think, hey, that's pretty good, let's do it. But by keeping the scores separate, you get the full story. The NSI and NCI basically scream at you, hey, this project has a massive benefit, but watch out, it's also got a serious hidden risk that you need to deal with. And that's what this is all about in the end. This isn't just a paper for academics. It's about using better data to make smarter decisions for all of us. So why does this matter so much? Well, it means we can finally see those hidden energy costs before they turn into a crisis. It helps us zero in on the real win-win projects that have positive effects everywhere. And maybe most importantly, it lets us fix the problems before we even start. For that project in Lebanon, the data makes the solution obvious. Pair those new irrigation systems with solar-powered pumps. You turn that conflict into yet another synergy. That is how you build systems that are truly resilient. So when you make these invisible connections finally visible, you can stop creating problems by accident and start designing solutions on purpose. It really just leaves you with one big question to think about. If we start measuring what truly matters, what other hidden connections are out there just waiting for us to unlock for a better future?